Thank you, Samantha. I never know what she's going to do when she gets up here, folks. I apologize. I don't know. Whatever. All right, so just keeping it young and real. Thank you so much for being here for part 2 of our current series, which is called Love and Respect. Excellent. So in a nutshell, for those of you who weren't here, and a refresher for those of you who were, in part 1, what we learned is that when God created humankind, He created us male and female. He created us equal. He created us the same in some ways, but not in every way. You see, men and women, truly, literally, think differently, we process things differently, and we have different ultimate values. And as a result of our not understanding those differences, what we regularly do is we misunderstand what the other gender really means by what they say and by what they do. In short, men and women have a general problem in the area of communication. And this often leads to intense arguments that chip away at the health of our marriages, that can even destroy our marriages if we don't get a handle on the very real differences between the ways males and females view things and hear things, and interpreting correctly what the other means by what they say and what they do. So here's a way to think of the differences that exist between men and women when it comes to this problem that genders have in the area of communication. As we said last time, think of these very real differences this way. A woman looks at the world through pink sunglasses, and those pink sunglasses affect and color everything she sees. A man, however, looks at the world through blue sunglasses. And those blue sunglasses affect and color everything he sees. But not only do men and women see things differently because they're looking through different colored lenses, pink and blue, but they also hear things differently because she's wearing pink headphones to go along with her pink sunglasses, and he's wearing blue headphones to go along with his blue sunglasses. And because men and women have sunglasses and headphones that are different in color, the messages that are sent and received, each from the other, often need to be decoded so as to get at the real meaning of what the other gender is actually saying, actually doing. Folks, it's the failure to understand the differences in how we send and receive messages from each other, and it's because we fail to decode what the other actually means by his or her words and actions. It's because we fail to recognize these things that we fight so often. And what is really at the root of all this, as we learned last time, is the fact that men and women are driven by different ultimate values. A woman's ultimate value in life is love, but a man's ultimate value in life is respect. She wants to be treated and spoken to in loving ways. He wants to be treated and spoken to in respectful ways. But this is not what's happening in many marriages. And so when something that a husband says or does registers in his wife's psyche as being unloving, she reacts negatively. And when something a woman says or does registers in her husband's psyche as being disrespectful, he reacts negatively. And when this becomes the ongoing pattern in a marriage, it results in couples finding themselves on what's been called the crazy cycle, which we showed a diagram of last week. Couples getting on the crazy cycle is all too easy. Recognizing you're on the crazy cycle and learning how to slow it down and getting off of it, that's a little more difficult, but it is possible if a husband and wife learn to meet each other's basic needs for love for her and respect for him. Right now, some of you in this room are inwardly asking, well, how can we be sure of all this? I.e., that the wife primarily needs to feel love and that the husband primarily needs to feel respect. This is an oft asked question? Well, for one thing, in beginning to answer this question, Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, pastor, theologian, marriage and family counselor, and author of the book, Love and Respect, discovered through many years of counseling experience, as has numerous other counselors, that it is the wife in counseling who consistently asks the question, does my husband love me as much as I love him? You see, the wife knows that she loves him, but wonders at times if he loves her nearly as much, because he often comes across as being unloving in his actions and words. And when he comes across this way, the wife will wonder about his love and will typically react in a negative way. And in her opinion, her husband needs to change into being a more sensitive, caring, and loving man. Unfortunately, a wife's usual approach to get him to change is to complain and criticize, to motivate her husband to become more loving. But this approach will not be successful. Now, in distinction to the wife, counselors have observed that the husband does not commonly ask, does my wife love me as much as I love her? He doesn't really ask that question. Why is that? It's because the husband generally feels assured of his wife's love. This is evidenced by the fact that when a counselor asks, does your wife love you? The usual reply is, yes, of course. But when asked, does your wife like you? The answer that usually comes back is nope. And the thing is that in many cases, the wife's dislike is interpreted by the husband as disrespect and even contempt. In his opinion, she has changed from being the admiring, ever-approving woman that she was when they courted. Now she doesn't approve, and she's letting him know it. And so the husband decides that he'll motivate his wife to become more respectful by acting in unloving ways. But his approach will prove to be as unsuccessful as his wife's approach. The point is that numerous counselors have discovered that the issue wives regularly bring up is that their husband is uncaring and unloving, but the issue husbands raise is that their wife is contemptuous or disrespectful. This is one of the ways that we know that the primary need for women is to feel loved, and that one of the primary need for men is to feel respected. Now, even more convincing than that is, of course, God's Word. God's Word makes it very clear what a woman's primary need is and what a man's primary need is. And the Bible makes it clear, God's Word makes these things clear by what it commands a husband to do and by what it commands a wife to do. In Ephesians 5:3, in this verse, it says, each man must what? Love his wife as he loves himself. And the wife must what? Respect her husband. Now, it really couldn't be any clearer, right? And as we learned last week, this love and this respect are to be given each to the other unconditionally. That is, God did not put a conditional clause in this verse. And so let no one understand this verse to say, husbands, love your wives, wives, respect your husbands, but only if they've earned or deserve it. No, a husband is to love unconditionally. A wife is to respect unconditionally. Now, the fact that God commands husbands to love their wives unconditionally, and the fact that God commands wives to respect their husbands unconditionally shouts to us that a woman's primary need is to be loved and that a man's primary need is to be respected. Now, I realize that someone will ask, aren't love and respect pretty much the same thing? The answer is no. And an easy way to demonstrate this is by pointing to something people already know from their own experience. And that is this. Many will say that they respect their boss, but that certainly does not mean that they love their boss. That there's a difference between love and respect is obvious to most people. A couple can be sitting in a counseling session, and the wife will say, with her husband sitting right there, she'll say to the counselor, I love my husband, but I don't feel any respect for him. One wife who made that comment was asked by the counselor, how would you feel if your husband said, I respect my wife, but I don't love her? When that wife was asked how long she thought it would take for her to get over her husband saying that, she quickly replied, it would take me forever to get over that. And in fact, almost any wife would be deeply hurt if she heard those words from their husband. Indeed, she would view her husband as a very unloving human being because she would believe that you just don't say something like that to your wife. And yet that very same wife often feels that she can readily say to her husband, I love you, but I don't respect you. What she doesn't understand is that her husband would be equally devastated by her comment, and it would take him forever to get over that. The points that we've been making are that love and respect are different things, and that husbands and wives have needs that are truly equal. She needs unconditional love. He needs unconditional respect. Now let's be honest. Hearing about unconditional love is familiar. We've all heard about that. But this giving of unconditional respect thing is new to our 21st century North American ears. But really, as we learned last week, the idea of giving unconditional respect is not actually a new idea, but ancient and biblical. It's just that for the last 50 plus years in this country, it hasn't really been taught on or talked about in the Lord's church. And so we've pretty much forgotten about this part of the equation for a successful marriage. During the last few decades, all the North American church has preached in regards to marriages, the unconditional love part of the equation. And I'm just as guilty as the next pastor for only preaching half the truth. I've been good at preaching to husbands and wives about loving unconditionally, but like most pastors, somehow I missed the biblical teaching on unconditional respect. And so I'm just as much to blame as the next guy for why Christian marriages aren't as strong as they could and should be in our country. And I apologize, and I ask for forgiveness for failing not only the men in that way, but the women as well. You see, by not teaching the unconditional respect part of the equation, wives have been deprived of the very empowerment that in the vast majority of cases would result in their husbands becoming more loving, which is what they want their husbands to be. Here's how one woman put this after receiving the love and respect teaching that you are now receiving. She writes, I have led several studies on being a godly wife and have read and hopefully applied lots of biblical marriage resources. But I knew something was still missing in my own relationship. I could not figure out why my husband was staying somewhat aggravated with me, and I was definitely not receiving the love and affection I so desired. Now I realize that I had been showing him disrespect without ever dreaming that was what was being communicated. And so I tried respect, and I was amazed at the result. My husband is definitely not a sweet talker. He is an outdoorsman who hunts all over the world. That's our business. Anyway, I thought this feels kind of silly, but I said to him, honey, I couldn't sleep very well last night, and so I spent a lot of time thinking of all the things I respect about you, which was true. He did not respond, but I felt a softening in the air. 2 days later, after spending all day in the duck blind with several men, he said to me, I missed you today. I wish you could have gone with me. I thought all day about what a sweet girl you are. I nearly laughed out loud. He called me a sweet girl. I'm a grandmother. But oh, it's so fun to feel loved. I am now more aware of so many ways that I was communicating disrespect without meaning it. Ladies, respect does something for the soul of a man. God just made him that way. Now, in reintroducing the respect aspect of what the Bible says is half the equation for a successful marriage, someone is sure to ask, Pastor, you say that women need love and that men need respect, but isn't the opposite true as well? Don't women need respect and don't men need love? And the answer is absolutely. But what we are discussing in this series is the primary need that each has and that drives the two sexes. And sometimes what those primary needs are get mixed up in our heads due to cultural forces. For example, back in the 60s, when the feminist movement was hitting its stride, Aretha Franklin, one of my all-time favorite singers, released a hit single called R-E-S-P-E-C-T. You recall it? If you're under 35, you missed all the good music. I'm so sorry. So sorry for you. Okay? And R-E-S-P-C-T, see, this song was clearly meant to send the message in culture that all women were asking for was a little respect when they got home. Respect, we were being told, is what women needed, and they had to have it. And this song became something of a theme song for a lot of women. But what they did not realize is that R-E-S-P-E-C-T was not written by Aretha. It was written by this person. Otis Redding. Otis Redding. Again, for those of you under 35, I am so sorry. You missed out. Otis Redding. Come on, man. He's a man. He's the one who recorded and wrote Respect 2 years before Aretha ever sang it. Now, you'll recall that just before he sang in that video clip, he said that a woman, a good friend of his, took the song from him. He was referring to Aretha Franklin. But here's the deal. Otis recorded that song as a single on August 15th, 1965, as a message to his wife. What you want? Baby, I got it. What you need? Baby, I'll give it. I'll bring all my money. Just give me a little what? Respect when I get home. Just a little respect. Come on now. So Aretha had every right to sing R-E-S-P-C-T from a female point of view, and a woman does need respect, and if a man loves her properly, she will receive that respect. But the primary insight from Otis Redding's song is that the cry from the deepest part of a man's soul is that he needs to have respect from his wife. And he's got to have it. Literally, seriously, he's got to have it. And again, for sure, a woman needs respect too. But that is not what is the deepest cry from her heart. No, women want love more than respect. Let me illustrate this from the world of greeting cards. The greeting card industry is still alive and well in the United States, generating $7.5 billion in annual revenue. And research reveals that 85% of all greeting cards are purchased by women and given to women. Greeting card companies, as you might guess, are not interested in anything but money. That is, they are not interested in ideology. They are not trying to change anyone's mind like the feminists or any other movement is. No, greeting card companies just want to produce what sells. And what sells with women are cards about love. In fact, I challenge you to go out and find a card that's designed for a husband to give to his wife. A card that says, "Baby, I respect you so much." You're not going to find that card. That card isn't out there. Because that's not what your wife wants to hear. And greeting card companies know it. They know that what women are all about at the depth of their being is love. And that's not a negative. I mean, that's the way God designed women. In fact, if love were not the woman's deepest value, the world would be a very sad place to live. Now, up to a few years ago, greeting card companies did not make any cards designed for wives to give to their husbands that say, "Honey, I respect you so much." And cards like that did not get made because card companies knew that women wouldn't buy those cards. Because women are all about love. They want to express love to their husbands. Women didn't even think about expressing respect. But now, as some women have been dialing into what their husbands really need to hear, card companies have started making some cards that express that. But again, just up to a few years ago, cards that expressed respect didn't even exist at all. And so the deepest yearning of husbands went unmet, and often still do, because the majority of women are locked into only relaying sentiments of love. For those of you who have a son, think how sad he may be, your son. Wife, the words, "I really respect you." The very need God created in your son's soul is going to go overlooked because certain voices in our culture claim that your son does not deserve to receive respect from your daughter-in-law unless he meets and maintains her romantic expectations. And if your son's marriage is typical, after the first year of marriage, your son will know that his wife loves him, but will feel that she neither likes him nor admires him for who he is as a human being. And if your daughter-in-law follows the typical pattern, she will spend her energy seeking to change your son with criticism and complaints, which will eventually feel like contempt to him. That is your son's future. Unless women begin to dial into the fact that the deepest value of a man is not love, but respect. Listen, a nationwide survey of hundreds of men, they were asked if they as men were forced to choose between one of these two following negative experiences, which would they prefer as men to endure? A, to be left alone and unloved in the world, or B, to feel inadequate and disrespected by everyone. 74% of these men say that if they were forced to choose, they'd prefer being alone and unloved in the world. That speaks volumes about how deep this need to feel respected is for men. Ladies, this need by men to feel respected by their wives is a real thing. And no, it's not rooted in ego, as some might suppose, but in the way God has hardwired him. There's a reason why God says in Ephesians 5:33, each man must do what? Love his wife as he loves himself. And the wife must, what? Respect her husband. Okay, what I'd like to do now is shift gears and share a little with the men some of the reasons why our wives get in our face when they get in our face. That's right. Pastor Ed's wife gets in his face sometimes. And I want to do this because we men wear blue sunglasses and wear blue headphones. And so we as men typically fail to decipher what's really being said and what's really going on when our wife gets in our face. Men, when our wife is feeling unloved, she will, in the majority of cases, don't miss it, she will move toward us. For example, let's say it's the first year of marriage and a husband has been late getting home 2 nights in a row without calling. His wife says to herself, this is wrong. How can he be so insensitive? Am I the last priority on his list? This is so unloving. Instinctively, she proceeds to say and do what she believes is the loving thing. The minute he walks through the door, she says, we need to talk. We need to talk right now. Please sit down and talk to me. Now, in utilizing this approach, men, your wife is using the same approach that she would use with her best girlfriend. You see, when women have conflict with their girlfriends, they both usually verbalize their feelings. They share what is on their heart because instinctively they know that through this process that this will lead to reconciliation. At one point, some point, one of them will say, well, I was wrong. And the other will say, no, I was wrong too. Will you forgive me? And the other will say, yes, of course I'll forgive you. I'm really sorry. And then they hug, shed a few tears, and pretty soon they're laughing. This process just described is what's been referred to as bringing things full circle. Men, more likely than not, when your wife gets in your face, it's because A, she's feeling unloved. And B, this is the approach she uses with her girlfriends. And she believes this is how things can be made right between you and her, which is what she wants. In other words, her motive is love. Women, this may be all obvious and a no-brainer to you, but that's because you wear pink sunglasses and have pink headphones on. We men are not able to decipher this because that's not how men do things. We wear blue sunglasses and have on blue headphones. Anyway, men, here's the general process your wife is used to going through to resolve a problem. Understanding this process will prayerfully help us, men, to not respond in our typical way. And by not responding in our typical way, we will be able to slow down the crazy cycle in our marriage. Okay, typically, a wife's general process goes something like this. If she loves her husband, when a problem arises and something feels unloving to her, the wife will instinctively, here it is again, move toward her husband to share her feelings. And her eventual goal is that they both apologize and then embrace. This is the way she keeps the marriage up to date, which is a very high value for her. Her heart longs to resolve things and to be reconciled. Her husband matters to her more than any other adult on earth. And so in truth, her confrontation, guys, is something of a compliment because it's all motivated by her love for you and her desire for everything to be all right between you two. Now, there is another common reason as to why a wife will confront her husband, but it too is rooted in her love for you. This additional reason has to do with her sincere desire to help you be your best. so that you will do well and succeed. So when she criticizes you for the way, let's say, that you handle yourself in a particular situation, or for the way you dress, or for something you were planning to say in your sermon and such, those criticisms are very often out of your wife's genuine love for you and her desire to help you do well in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Now, knowing this should prayerfully help us, guys, to not respond in our usual way so quickly, because it lets us know, right, that our wife is not trying to be disrespectful or to come across contemptuously. She's not trying to do that, even though our blue sunglasses and our blue headphones may be hindering us from deciphering that and the real reasons she's saying and doing what she is saying. Okay, in moving on, let me share a little with the women now, some of the reasons why your husband stonewalls you and or walks away during a conflict. And I want to do this because women wear pink sunglasses and wear pink headphones, and so typically you fail to decipher what's really being communicated through these actions in your husband. Now let me begin by emphasizing, ladies, that when men hear negative criticism, it doesn't take long for them to start interpreting that as contempt for who they are as men. Remember, men are wearing blue headphones. So when a man's wife sends out those pink but very pointed messages, and that air hose of his that we spoke of last week begins to leak, your husband will soon be saying inwardly, he may not say this to you out loud, but this is what he's thinking inside: I don't deserve this kind of talk. Everybody respects me except you. You're just picking a fight. I wish you'd be quiet. And when a husband can take it no longer, he gets up and he walks out without a word. Now guys, when you walk out, her pink sunglasses can't believe it, because to her, if you love someone and there's a problem, you move what? Toward the person. So guys, by you walking away, registers in her psyche as you screaming by your action, I don't love you, which is not what you're saying at all. But she doesn't know the meaning behind a man walking away because she doesn't wear blue sunglasses. So ladies, let me explain. A man has another deep need that is a first cousin to his need for respect, and that is his need to be, for most men, honorable and to act honorably. And to act honorably, he feels that he shouldn't be reactionary toward your criticisms. He doesn't believe that he should escalate the conflict, which he knows he will do if he remains in the same space as you. And so he distances himself from you, which again is the honorable thing for him to do in man code. Man code. So wives, what you see through your pink sunglasses as an unloving thing to do, him walking away, through his blue sunglasses, your husband sees it as an honorable thing to do. So understanding this, ladies, prayerfully should help you to not respond to your husband in the usual way so quickly, because now you know that he's not trying to express that he doesn't love you by the actions he's taken, even though your pink sunglasses may be hindering you from deciphering that and the real reasons he's doing what he's doing. He's not trying to say, I don't love you. Okay, so that's all we have time for today. So let me conclude part 2 of this series this way. Folks, to get off the crazy cycle that so many couples are on, we have to understand and accept the differences between her pink sunglasses and her pink headphones and his blue sunglasses and blue headphones. You can stomp and you can shout and you can say it shouldn't be this way, it doesn't have to be. No, it's that way. And the sooner you accept it and embrace it, the sooner you can get on to a better relationship. Denial's not going to help you. The differences that we're describing in this series, in other words, are a real thing. They're a real thing. Prayerfully, we are all beginning to understand the differences and are now ready to learn how to communicate better what she needs, which is love, and how to communicate better what he needs is respect. And we're going to begin to learn such specific communication skills starting next Sunday in part 3. So don't miss it.